Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this live broadcast that we have today. My name is Charlene Savage, and I'm coming to you live from Brisbane in Queensland of Australia. And we have a guest here today, Sean Lynch. Now, Sean, forgive me, because I actually don't know where you reside. I don't know where you reside, but I'll let you come out and tell everyone who you are and where you're based at very shortly. So I wanted to gather everyone here today to really to get an update in terms of what's happening with Bitclub Network. There's obviously a lot of questions going around, and I really believe that today will highlight a lot of areas that will bring a lot of peace to those who have invested, some small, some heavily. So we really just wanted to bring this to the forefront and to be available to answer any questions that may have arisen, any concerns, any queries, all of that stuff, because this is what we're here for. We are a team, we're in this together, and I'm still very, very excited for what is to come. So without further ado, I just want to invite and bring out Mr. Sean Lynch. You know, he is an absolute pioneer in the industry of cryptocurrency, just a man full of so much knowledge and wisdom in this area, especially, you know, in terms of the Bitclub and his network and the teams that we've brought in, the people that we've brought in. We really do care. We really do care about people, because this is something that a lot of people have placed a lot of trust in. And so hopefully today will bring you some peace and some clarity as to what's really happening, so that you can just rest with what we have. So Sean, welcome. Come on out, just unmute yourself, brother. And
thank you for that.
I'm literally just going to hand it over to you now. So the floor is yours. Go for it.
That's fine. Thanks, Arlene. It's great to be on a call with you, Connie, Daniel, Tim. Nice to see you. And anyone watching this on the recording, thanks for watching this. It's really important information that I think you should watch from now until the end. You won't be disappointed. My name is Sean Lynch. I'm from Montreal, Canada, and I discovered Bitcoin back in 2016. And I would say that I went down the rabbit hole. Okay, very, very obsessed about the technology. So I've spent countless hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours, just researching about the technology. What Bitcoin is, what its value proposition is, and how the technology works. And that got me involved into Bitclub Network. And what I'm going to share with you today, for those of you who are in Bitclub Network, you might have seen things have slowed down compared to 2017. It might have caught you by surprise. And because the communication is few and far between, talking about official updates, I feel that if you watch, if you listen to what I have to share in this video, it might give you a better understanding as to why things have slowed down a little bit. And that, I still think there's a very bright future with this business. So to get started here, in order to understand, why Bitclub is slowing down a little bit, you need to understand what Bitcoin's value proposition is. Now, I give a course on Bitcoin that I created myself here. I called it the Introduction to Bitcoin. And really, we're not going to go through the course, but we're just going to cover 2 or 3 slides here. And Bitcoin's value proposition, if you just pull up the white paper, is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system designed to be sound money for the world. And that term sound money, when I first heard it, I had no idea what that meant, because I was born in 1984. Using government fiat paper money, and never really was taught in school what these pieces of paper were and why they had any value. So when you go down the rabbit hole, if you really do your research and understand that, money, there's some characteristics that money must have in order to be good money, right? I mean, we can't use apples as money because they rot. They're not durable. So when humans decide to use money, right? Because money facilitates exchange. Without money, we're basically just bartering. And if you'll understand very fast why barter doesn't work in today's age. It's only good at the very local level. And getting out of barter is what got man out of the Stone Age and onto the moon, right? Into this digital age that we live in. So we're never really going to go back to bartering. Money is a tool that's been used for thousands of years to facilitate exchange between us, and for storing value so that you can deploy it at a future point in time. So there's really a few properties that money has. It's got to be a good medium of exchange. You got to be able to use it as a unit of account. It's got to be divisible, durable, portable. So these are properties that you're looking for in a commodity to use as money. And that's why if you look at different geographic areas on the planet, like in prisons, people might use cigarettes as money because they've got all these characteristics and they happen to be scarce in prison. And scarce here at the bottom is bolded because that's what gives money a good long-term store of value. If the commodity that you're using is easy to produce, then people will just produce more of it, which will inflate the supply, which will essentially take away your wealth. If you're a saver, you're going to lose wealth over time via inflation because the producers of that commodity will be out there producing it more and more and selling it into the market. So they'll be making the quick bucks, but you as a saver will lose over time. And that's what's happening in today's age with government paper money, is that you see places like in Venezuela and Zimbabwe with the hyperinflation that they're going through. And really, there's no fiat government money that has been around forever, right? If you look at history, all fiat dollars eventually go to zero because those who are in control of producing it will overproduce the currency to finance things that they can't afford, like bigger governments and wars and things like that. So the important thing is to understand so we went over this little history lesson. It's very quick, but it's very important to understand. And this will help when I explain later on what's going on with Bitclub. So sound money is a commodity that has to be hard to produce, because any commodity that is used as money between humans will initially rise in price. For example, if we take copper, nobody's using copper today as a means of exchange. But what if we were? Let me give you a hypothetical situation here. If you go to Google right now and pull up the current price of copper, I pulled this out a couple months ago. It was $2.78 a pound. And where does that price come from? Well, for its use in industry, right? For wiring and things like that. So copper does have a demand right now, and so it has a market price, supply and demand. Now, if in a month we were to theoretically say, you know what, guys, we're going to start using copper coins as a means of exchange in 1 month from now. So what would that do to the price of copper? Well, now there'd be a new monetary demand for copper because people would want to start collecting it to use as money. So the demand for copper would increase. And because the demand increases tomorrow, then the price has to go up, right? Because there's more demand for the commodity. So the price will start going up because more people want it. Now, what's going to happen with the copper suppliers? So the people that are out there producing copper, pulling it out of the ground, they're going to start seeing the price rise, right? They'll wake up tomorrow and say, hey, copper just went up to $4 a pound, $5 a pound. So with the increase in cost, they're going to start producing more of it. And as with any natural resource on the planet, there's no finite resource on this planet. Copper, just in the Earth's crust here, if you look at the statistics, there's 10 to the 14 tons in the top kilometer of the Earth's crust alone, which would take about 5 million years at the current rate of extraction to pull that all out. So really, the only finite resource on this planet is human time. If humans want to pull out more resources or produce more, it's just a matter of putting our time and effort into doing so. And as long as it's profitable, people will do it. So the rising cost in copper will increase the copper suppliers to pull more copper out of the ground, sell that into the open market, which will then start which will start bringing the price of the copper down as it inflates. And those who decided to keep copper as a store of value, right? If you're holding copper under your mattress, well, over the years, your copper is going to be worth less and less and less as more copper is produced. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind here as we go into Bitclub. So let's pull up some charts here. Most of us found out about Bitclub in 2017, probably on this call. I'm assuming everyone on this call who is going to watch this replay probably heard about Bitclub or found out about Bitcoin early to mid, even late 2017. And why do you think you found out about it in this period? Well, here's a price chart of Bitcoin in 2017, where the price started around $1,000 and made its way all the way up to $20,000 in that 1 year. So because of that price rise, that got people talking about Bitcoin, right? People at Thanksgiving dinners, people, your taxi cab drivers, on the media, more and more awareness was being brought to the general public about Bitcoin because of its price going up. Now, because of its price going up, that makes people want to learn more about the technology, how they can acquire it, or perhaps how can they produce it for themselves. And we should all know by now how Bitcoin is produced, right? It's produced through the mining process, which we'll cover here in a sec. So I want to show you a correlation between price and hash rate here. So you can clearly see the price rise all the way up to $20,000 in 2017. Now, if you look at the network hash rate, which signifies the computing power on the network, people like us, at Bitclub Network, buying machines to add security to the network, and everybody else on the planet, right? The Bitcoin is a global payment network, and it's accessible by everyone on the planet, which includes the mining process. So everyone who heard about Bitcoin and was interested in producing it, well, they went out and bought machines and connected it to the network to try to produce their own Bitcoin. Why is that? Well, we talked about it here in this slide. Any commodity that people will use as a means of exchange, if the price goes up, well, people are incentivized to produce it because, right, it's profitable. And it's no different for Bitcoin. So if you look at this chart here, the network hash rate went really, really high. So all in November of, sorry about that, guys. In 2017, the network hash rate, was relatively stable, just increasing slowly at the beginning. And then as Bitcoin went up to $20,000, which was about here, right? From November to December, this is this huge price swing in about a month. Well, now everybody's talking about Bitcoin. Everybody knows about it because it's at $20,000 and it's rising. It's a hockey stick, right? So that gets everybody involved. So right here, this is when Bitcoin hit $20,000, right about here. So now everybody is out there who's interested in mining, buys machines and connects it to the network. And now because of that, there's a steady increase in the hash rate for quite some time, actually, for almost all of 2018, right? Right about here, which brings us to like the end of the year almost. So throughout the whole year, people are adding computer power to the network. Now, what's the price doing at that time? Well, the price is now dropping. So you can see the price, although people are committing resources to the network to mine it, the price is dropping really fast, right? So it went from $20,000 to about here, so which is about $6,000. That's one thing you got to keep in mind. The price is going down really fast as the network hash rate is going up fast. Now, because the network hash rate is going up really fast, what does that do to the difficulty? This is why, so before we go into difficulty, sorry, I didn't actually cover this here. So this is why copper can never be sound money, right? Because copper is a resource that we can produce quite easily if we wanted to, right? If the price goes up, producers can pull more of it out of the ground. There's plenty of copper to go around. So copper can never be considered as sound money because if the value goes up, it's very easy to produce. So gold has been considered a good store of value for thousands of years because no matter how much value people give to it, it's quite scarce and it's very expensive and it's hard to produce. So it's really hard to inflate the gold supply, which is why in terms of a physical commodity, gold has stood the test of time. But Bitcoin is digital, so that's why a lot of people like it, right? You can't email gold, but you can email and send Bitcoin across the planet to anybody almost instantly and at very low cost. And Bitcoin is hard to produce because of the network difficulty. The network difficulty is what ensures that on average, new Bitcoins get introduced to the network every 10 minutes when a new block is mined. And no matter how many people join the network, no matter how ridiculous the hash rate goes up, right? More people are trying to mine for Bitcoin. If there was no network difficulty, then the issuance of new Bitcoins would come out really fast, right? So instead of every 10 minutes, a block would be mined, it would be every minute, every 10 seconds, every 15 seconds. And then the new Bitcoins would get into the market really, really fast which would defeat the purpose. It wouldn't be sound money anymore. And that's what the difficulty is there for. So as you can see, from the hash rate going up, the difficulty is also going up really high here. So the difficulty is just think of a Sudoku puzzle, right? Everyone's done a Sudoku. It's really simple. Like most people can solve a Sudoku in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how hard it is. So it takes you a while to solve the Sudoku. But once you have the solution, it's very easy to verify that you have the correct solution, because you just have to add up all the columns and the rows, make sure you have the 1 through 9s. So Bitcoin mining is kind of like, it uses a similar problem. It's a problem that's really hard to find the answer for computers, and but it's very easy to solve, to verify that you have the correct solution. So the more people you have trying to guess the answer to that problem, if you scale up the difficulty, it still takes more guesses and more guesses and more guesses. And this can get as hard as it takes, so that on average, it takes 10 minutes for the computers on the network to solve that next block. So this is why Bitcoin, by many, is considered to be sound money, because no matter how high the price goes, right? Because of supply and demand, there's a limited supply of Bitcoins. We all know that by now. 21 million is the cap. There's 17 million Bitcoin mines, 17.6 million mines. And, no matter how high the demand goes, which will increase the price over time as more and more people use it, because the supply is pretty much fixed, people are going to want to produce more of it. People are going to be like, I want to get my own Bitcoins. What's this mining all about? So they're going to find out about mining. They're going to try to get in, but the difficulty will just scale up, so that on average, the issuance is every 10 minutes. And the reverse is also true, right? So if people leave the network, like we can see here, like after about 8 months of a drastic spike in difficulty, and the price going down, eventually some people are going to shut off their miners, because it becomes unprofitable for you to mine Bitcoin, because it's so hard and you're being outcompeted. So as you can see, the network difficulty will drop when there's a drop in hash rate as well. So this is the drop here. And if you look at the hash rate, the hash rate dropped here as well. So as people leave the network because they don't want to mine anymore, the difficulty will drop. So that's lesson number 1 to understand what's going on with Bitclub. So we've slowed down a little bit in terms of our mining earnings and such, because it's gotten really hard to mine that next block. And our power costs are pretty expensive at the current rate here. So that's what I'm going to show you here. So if we go to this website here called btc.com, and I'll show you what I did here. So on btc.com, I just clicked on, we got some pool hash rate statistics here. I clicked on Bitclub. And I like this website because it kind of shows you all the blocks that we mine every month, and it goes back pretty far here. So you see these columns at the bottom. If you just hover your mouse over them, you can see how many blocks we mined each month. So let's pull up last month in February here. So February 2019, it says 98 blocks. Now, most of you should know, but if you don't know by now, a block reward is currently set to 12.5 Bitcoin. So every 10 minutes, there's 12.5 Bitcoin that is created to reward a miner who's contributing to the network security. And you also get the transaction fees within that block. Now, for the math, we're going to omit the transaction fees because we don't want to sit here for 10 minutes and add them all up. But you could do that if you want it to be a little bit more accurate. But for this example, we're just going to use 12.5 Bitcoins per block. So 98 blocks times 12.5 Bitcoin. How many Bitcoins did we mine in February? We mined 1,225 total Bitcoin, right? A little bit more than that because we're omitting the transaction fees, but close enough. So how much is that worth in terms of fiat dollars? So at today's price, Bitcoin's roughly $4,000 today. So times $4,000, that's $4.9 million in terms of Bitcoins. Now, how much money does Bitclub have to spend to maintain the equipment to mine that many blocks? So if you've been following the hash rate of Bitclub Network from this website here, bitclubpool.com, you can see that our network hash rate over the month has been hovering, sometimes here around 1,400, 1,300 petahash. Sometimes some of the equipment gets turned off here, so it kind of varies over the month. But if you've been following the updates, you should be aware that Bitclub Network has 1,600 petahash of equipment online that they could have online right now, like plugged in. If it was all turned on, you could have about 1,600 petahash. So what's a petahash? It just means how many calculations you can do per second. And here's some specifications of the S9 Antminer. So if you have one S9 Antminer, you can do 13.5 terahashes per second. So let's do some math here. 1,600 petahash. You just have to multiply that by 1,000 to get terahashes, because there's 1,000 terahashes and 1 petahash. So that's 1.6 million terahashes. So to get 1.6 million terahashes, how many of these machines do you need? Assuming you have only S9 Antminers. So we'll just divide this by 13.5. So you need about 119,000 Antminers to produce that much power on the network for mining Bitcoin. And how much of an electricity bill would you have to pay to maintain this many machines for a whole month? So let's look at the specifications down here. The Antminer consumes about 1,323 watts, or plus or minus 10%. So I'm going to take the worst case scenario and just round it up to 1,500 watts. So 1,500 watts, we're going to multiply that by 24 to get, because that's per hour, and we're going to get this per day. So that's 3,600 watts per day. Now we're going to divide that by 1,000 to get kilowatts, which is 36. And then we're going to multiply that by 30 to get per month, right? So every month to run one machine, it would take about 1,080 kilowatts of electricity. Now I know I'm going through this fast, so you might have to pause and rewind the video, or maybe write it down on a piece of paper and a pen, but you can do the math on your own if I'm going a little bit too fast here. So 1,080 kilowatts is what you need per month. Now, how much are we paying? How much do you pay for electricity every month? We know from past updates that Bitclub Network has some really good power rates because we have good locations in Iceland and Montana. We deal really good rates, anywhere between 3 and 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So let's use 5 cents per kilowatt hour in this example. So we're going to multiply that by 5, so now we're going to do the full calculation and find out how much it's going to cost us to run 119,000 Antminers. So 119,000 Antminers times 1,080 kilowatts per month times 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's your electricity bill right there. All right, to maintain 1,600 petahash for a whole month using an S9 Antminer, paying 5 cents per kilowatt hour, would cost you roughly $6 million in a month. So do you see why things have slowed down? Because if you look at February, we only mined 98 blocks, right, which gave us about 1,200 Bitcoin. 1,200 Bitcoins at $4,000 each is only 4.9 million, we said. So the amount of Bitcoins that we mined doesn't cover our electricity bill. Now, these are just estimates, right? Because we didn't have 1,600 petahash running all month. It's varied 500 to 1,300. So I'm really just giving you ballpark numbers so you understand what it is that's going on. So right now, Bitcoin is really difficult to mine. It requires, and the price of Bitcoin is so low. So in order to cover for your operational costs, you have to liquidate a lot of your Bitcoins, which means that there's very little left over to distribute to members after you pay your electricity bill. So let me just give you an example of back in 2017 when Bitcoin was $4,000. Because a lot of people have approached me and said, well, Sean, Bitcoin was $4,000 at one point in 2017, but everything was going really well. How can it be so different? Well, that goes back to network difficulty. So if you look at the difficulty chart, well, when was the last time Bitcoin was $4,000? So Bitcoin was $4,000 around here. So 4,000 bucks. Throughout the month of August of 2017, it was pretty much $4,000, like it is today in 2019. So that was around August of 2017. So if you look at the difficulty in August of 2017, we're down here, August. We're down here in the difficulty level, whereas today we're all the way up here. And how many petahashes did we have in August of 2017? Well, I created a timeline. It's going to be very small for you guys to see. I was tracking everything for the last 4 years. But if you see here, it's very small. But around September of 2017, we hit a 300 petahash milestone. So we had about 300 petahash online in August of 2017. So let's do the math. Let's see how different this is, okay? So 300 petahash, right? We multiply that by 1,000 to get our terahashes, divide that by 13.5. That means we had about 22,000 machines online. Instead of 119,000 machines, we had about 22,000 machines online to produce that power. So 22,000 times 1080 times your 5 cents per kilowatt hour. It means our electricity bill was now probably about 1.2 million instead of in the 6 millions. Now, how many Bitcoins did we mine that month? Let's go to the BTC chart over here. And if you go to August of 2017, which is about here, we mined 181 blocks, right? So 181 times 12.5, we're going to omit the transaction fees. We mined over 1,000 Bitcoin more that month with only 300 petahash than we did last month with 1,600, well, not 1,600 the whole month, but, with 1,600 potential petahash online. So that's what the network difficulty does to you. It just makes it a lot harder to mine. And so how much is this in terms of fiat? So times $4,000. So we mined $9 million worth of Bitcoin, and we had an electricity bill of 1.2 million. So if you do the difference, you're left with $8 million left over. So this is why it's a lot. You can share a lot more afterwards. So when it comes to Bitcoin mining, because it is, the value proposition of it is to be sound money, Bitcoin mining is never going to be a linear thing where whoever plugs in some machines is guaranteed to make money. It's a global competition, which means that if you want to compete to mine Bitcoin, you have to treat it as a business. So everyone who gets involved in Bitcoin mining, those who are going to survive for years and be around, are those who are paying attention to their operational costs, those who are negotiating the best power rates that they can, those that are worried about their overhead, like how much am I paying for rent for this property? How many staff members am I going to hire? You've probably seen in the news a lot of miners who got into mining in 2017 have pretty much shut down their operations and have tried to sell their miners back into the market because it's junk to them and no one wants to buy it because everyone's afraid to mine right now because of the price going down. So whoever gets involved in Bitcoin mining, including the Bitclub Network, because things are getting tough right now because of the market conditions, it doesn't just mean we roll over and we give up and we die. It means that we fight, we get stronger. It doesn't mean we go out and and we sell, but we fight, meaning that what can we do to help our business grow? So let's scale down the Bitclub Network. 3 years ago, imagine it's you and 9 of your friends or 9 of your entrepreneurial business partners who decide to get into Bitcoin mining. You guys invest $10,000 each, right? You get $10,000 each. That gives you $100,000. How do you allocate these funds? Let's say you put 50 grand into miners, 10 grand into a facility, and you hook it up with electricity and you start mining Bitcoin. Hey, great. You're making some Bitcoin every month. Everyone's happy. The network difficulty is low. No one's really paying attention. And that's it. You don't treat it as a business. You just start pocketing all those Bitcoins, and eventually your pool is going to die because more miners are going to come onto the network. Better hardware is going to come onto the network. People are going to have better electricity rates than you. And eventually your pool is not going to produce enough Bitcoins to cover your cost, and you'll just have to shut down. That's it. So you made Bitcoins for a few months, you're happy, you shut down. But if you want to treat Bitcoin mining as a business, you always have to be thinking ahead, which is why Bitclub Network has that repurchase plan so that we can continuously add more equipment, expand our operations. Bitclub 4 years ago, did this properly, right? So that's how we got 1600 petahash in just under 4 years. So right now it's tight. I mean, Bitclub can do one thing. We can shut down all of our machines saying, you know what, we're giving up, or we weather the storm, right? It's the market conditions are terrible right now for mining Bitcoin. So that's why they're coming out with other products. You know, they came out with a BC Trader, things like that, things for people who are in the club to, you know, make revenue, make sales. You know, it's good products that are, I've tried the Trader, it works okay. I just don't feel comfortable putting my money on exchanges and such. So it's not for me. But, you know, and that's why, you know, during a bear market, we're just we're just weathering the storm. Now, when the price goes up, if we just look at the February example, right? If last month Bitcoin was worth $10,000 instead of 4,000, well, with 98 blocks, you know, this changes the game, right? With 98 blocks times 12 and a half Bitcoin, instead of being worth $4,000, if a Bitcoin is worth $10,000, well, now you got $12 million in terms of fiat for that month, with the same electricity bill, which we discussed earlier was about $6 million. So now instead of being in a negative, you're in a net positive of 6 million. So things start to move again. So we just need to weather the storm and wait for Bitcoin's price to go up, because this is what pretty much caused the slowdown, is just this epic bull run, this hockey stick of a price, people FOMOing in, not wanting to miss out, and then this massive correction. And this is not the first time this has happened, right? If you look at the all-time chart of Bitcoin, it's done this hockey stick quite a few numbers of times. And Bitclub is used to it. If you look at 2014, Bitclub started around here when Bitcoin was about $200, and it spiked up 2,000, and then it crashed back down to like 300. So imagine the members who were even earlier than you, right? People barely knew about Bitcoin, had no idea what it was. It was not as widely used as it is today. The information about it wasn't shared as much. So people taking that risk, putting money into machines that are going to mine this digital currency that's supposed to be used by people someday in the future. It's all very futuristic. So those are the huge risk takers that actually put money into machines in 2014. Now we're in 2019, and if you've been following the news or doing any sort of due diligence or learning about Bitcoin, you kind of know that, you know, this technology is so decentralized, it can't be shut down by governments, it can't be shut down by banks. It's got the largest network effect. The brightest developers are working on it. It's got the biggest hash rate of all the coins on the network, right? At 46 exahash, which is like 46 trillion laptops equivalent. So, you know, it's unmatched in terms of the capital costs that have been done in Bitcoin. So should only go up from here, right? It should only go up. So all we got to do is weather the storm. The next Bitcoin halving is happening in less than 400 days, right? It's around May of 2020. So if you look at the history, halvings usually cause a price increase because now there's less Bitcoins coming in. You know, the inflation is lower. The demand is just getting higher. And Bitcoins are very, very scarce, right? For those who don't understand how scarce Bitcoins are, just look at the amount in circulation, right? There's 17.6 million in circulation. If you start digging around, there's some estimates that about 4 million are lost for good. You know, private keys that haven't moved funds in like 10 years. So you can assume that they're probably lost Bitcoins. So that brings you down to 13 million. And then out of those 13 million, there's probably some of those coins that are going to be locked up in people's cold storage forever, right? Like some people who are just never going to move those coins, like die-hard hodlers. So that leaves you, what, 9, 10 million Bitcoin in circulation, most of it locked up in exchanges and such. So that's really not a lot of whole Bitcoins. I mean, there's more Coinbase users than 10 million. So they're extremely scarce. So eventually the whole units are going to be pretty much, they'll have to be unaffordable. And we'll be dealing in Satoshis, right? One Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million pieces. So we'll be dealing in fractions of a Bitcoin in a couple of years. So those who got in early, those who got in before the hockey stick should be rewarded. If you're watching this for the first time, you know, this is definitely not financial advice. Just, you know, giving you my thoughts on Bitcoin and how it's mined and what's going on at the Bitclub Network, why things have slowed down. And I'd like to end this chat by just reminding you that, you know, when Visa and MasterCard introduced plastic to people, that was a big change, right? People were used to using cash and checks, and oh my God, now I'm going to use this plastic credit card. No one's going to ever pick this up. So, those who started Visa, MasterCard, it was a tremendous investment to build out that infrastructure, right? They had to build data centers, big computer data centers to track all the transactions. They had to distribute the credit cards to people. They had to distribute the point of sale systems to the merchants to accept the credit cards. So that didn't happen overnight. It happened over gradual time. And that's a lot of time and money invested. And now Visa and MasterCard are doing great, right? They're collecting transaction fees and securing a payment network that almost everybody uses. Well, most people that are bankable. Now, Bitcoin is the same thing. The miners, people that are mining, are securing the network, right? Verifying transactions. So that's the infrastructure being built out today. And now we need ways for people to spend their Bitcoin in the stores, right? Because if you have Bitcoin, you'll find that, hey, how do I spend it in stores? Like, the stores aren't accepting it. So with CoinPay, which is our merchant solution, which we're currently using in the Bitclub Network to pay for our own invoices, that's going to be a way for us to tackle the retail adoption, right? So if we go out there with our distribution network of over 1 million members, we can all knock on businesses' doors and promote the value and the advantages of accepting Bitcoin, right? You're opening your doors to people who want to spend their crypto. It's one-way transactions. We beat the transaction fees of Visa, MasterCard. They're probably gouging you anywhere between 3 to 6%. Ours will only charge you 1%. We'll give you the option of holding your crypto, or we'll just convert it into your local fiat if you don't want to deal with the volatility, which is fine because Bitcoin will be volatile for the next couple of years. Until it's more widely used and more money comes into Bitcoin, the price will remain volatile. But eventually, when there's enough liquidity in the market, big whales won't be able to swing the prices like we saw today. You can't get $200 swings like that. That's not natural. And that's it, right? So that's the other component of Bitcoin that's needed, is just a retail adoption, and we've already got that in mind. So, and that vision's been there since day one, right? So that should give you some confidence that we're building something for the long term. So we're investing in the hardware that's securing this global decentralized payment network. We're going to help bring retail adoption by offering a product that's going to work, and at the same time, we're educating people about Bitcoin. We're very passionate about the technology. We're in the club, so everywhere we go, we talk about Bitcoin. We teach people about Bitcoin. We help set up wallets, etc. And so all that, everything that you do on a daily basis will just help bring more awareness to Bitcoin. And because you're a holder of Bitcoin, because you're mining Bitcoin with this club, that all should help us in the long run. So it's not a short-term game. This isn't something that we're in here for a month. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a Ponzi scheme. Because I hope by the math that I just showed you, it explains why everything kind of slowed down. If the payments today were the same they were last year, then you'd want to run for the hills. You'd be like, this doesn't make any sense. Where's all this money coming from to pay me? Okay, it must be coming from new sales, from bringing in new people, like most Ponzi schemes do, right? So I think that I covered all the points I needed to cover. Let me know if you guys have any questions, or if you want to jump on here. It'd be nice to hear from you guys. I'll mute myself for a sec.
Actually, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I'm reading a lot. Obviously, I read every day and I post articles every day, and you've seen some of them. One of the articles recently was about the new chip being released for the Bitmain amp miners.
Mm-hmm.
And if those chips aren't actually being introduced into old machines, they're going to be struggling. So do you know if Bitclub Network is actually introducing those chips to existing machines, or are they going to be implementing the new machines? Because obviously it makes a difference in production.
Good question. So when it comes to chips, so there have been some news. If you've been reading the back office, there have been hints about Bitclub wanting to produce their own proprietary chips. One of the struggles in 2017 was buying hardware, right? So Bitcoin mining is a very new industry. And during that bull run of 2017, there really wasn't a lot of competition, a lot of manufacturers producing mining equipment, right? There was only pretty much one whale, and that was Bitmain. So Bitmain made a fortune in 2017 because they were the only guys on the block producing these machines that everybody wanted. So over time, there's going to be more competitors producing machines or hardware or chips. More of them are going to come around to give competition, which is going to be good for everybody because it'll give more diversity, lower prices for the hardware. Now, Bitclub is really big. Like, we're huge. So we have the funds and the means to do this ourselves. Same thing with our servers to run our infrastructure. So kind of like Amazon, Facebook, Google, they don't go out to third parties and say, hey, I'm going to rent some of your data space here. I need 10,000 servers to hold our data to run Google and Facebook. They don't do that. They're big enough now that they build out their own data centers. So they build it from scratch. They build the warehouses, they put the computers, and they do everything from scratch, and it's all in-house because they're so big and rich. So Bitclub faced that same problem in 2017. When you start a mining club 4 years ago with 10 people, and it grows to 20 people, it grows to 100 people, you don't need these huge data centers, and you don't need that space yet. But eventually you do need to expand, and eventually you need so much space that you can't even rent it out because nobody will rent it to you because they're not big enough. So Bitclub went through that big hiccup in 2017 where the website kind of slowed down for a while. And they installed their own servers. So now we've got our own proprietary data center to run our website and our repurchases and all the internal data that we need to run the company. So that's all done. And now we need, and then we needed equipment, right? If we're going to be out there selling shares to get the pool bigger, if we're just relying on Bitmain as our sole supplier, we got $10 million. Bitmain, please send us some machines. Well, Bitmain's not even selling machines these days. I'm sure if you haven't seen, there's an article saying that Bitmain's about to run 200,000 machines to mine Bitcoin themselves.
Yes, I did see that.
Right. So they're not even selling their machines. Why would they want to sell their machines if they could just install it themselves, mine Bitcoin? If that's more profitable for them than selling the machines to us, their competitor, they're just not going to sell. So it's really a bad move for Bitclub to rely on one or two manufacturers. So what did they do, guys? Well, that's why things have slowed down too. Like, that's why we're not buying equipment, because there's no one to buy equipment from. So we're going to make our own chips. And that can't be, you can't put back office updates on, guys, we're going to be dealing with this company. Like, this is proprietary stuff. It's got to be hush hush. Like, it's our chips. Once our chips are out there, we're going to be producing them. We'll be able to install equipment a lot faster. And we also need places to put this equipment, right? Here's a picture of me in a 10 megawatt facility in Iceland, right? It's huge. I'm sure it's really, really big, and you can house a lot of equipment, but there really isn't a lot of turnkey buildings this big, this ready for Bitcoin miners that exist on the planet. They need to be built from scratch because we want to put megawatts and megawatts of equipment up. So this was a pre-built building in Iceland from sometime during the world wars that were there. I can't remember the date, but it's being rented out to a lot of people because it's in Iceland, right? There's a lot of advantages of running data centers in Iceland because they've got cheap geothermal power. It's cool year round. It's a really good place to run data centers. But you can't just run data centers in Iceland. You got to find other places on the planet too. So, but where do you find places on the planet that have cheap renewable electricity, that's cool year round, that happens to have this 45-acre facility ready for you to install hardware? It just doesn't exist. So that slowed us down too. Bitclub Network grew so fast in 2017, brought in a lot of sales. And okay, you've got $200 million. Where are you going to buy the equipment from, and where are you going to put it? These things don't happen overnight. So that's why things have slowed down. So according to the updates, which have been posted, now I'm like you guys too. I wish they would put updates twice a month. Just say, hey guys, we're still on track. Just give us some sort of feedback. But I can't attest to why they're not giving official updates, but they have given updates that, guys, we're building a data center. It's 450 megawatts. And so that's huge, right? The one in Iceland is 10 megawatts. So just do the math. It's 450, 10. Like, that's going to house a lot of equipment. And we built it, so it's debt-free, right? We talked about keeping operational costs low, because if you want to mine Bitcoin profitably for many, many years, you got to keep your operational costs low. So if you build your own data center, well, now you don't have rent to pay, right? Because you built it out of money that you raise, and so it's debt-free. So we have a power plant, we have a debt-free facility, and we have our own chips that we can buy. So now we can start lining it up. So this is all going to line up with the next bull run. So with the next bull run, when Bitcoin, probably 6 months to a year from now, when everyone's all excited about Bitcoin again, oh my God, the price is going up. So all the members are going to get excited again. And if our chips are ready and the data center is ready, well, now we can make those sales and install that equipment and just go to the moon, right? And then eventually Bitcoin will crash again, right? It'll probably go to $100,000 and crash back down to 30, 40K. Because Bitcoin will be volatile until it's massively adopted, right? It's not going to do hockey stick and just stay there, because people are always going to want to take profits. Big whales are going to sell. There'll be some FUD on the market or something. You really need trillions of dollars to come into the space, I believe, so that it becomes less volatile. Kind of like in today's foreign exchange markets, right? If you go and sell $1 million of US dollars for euros, it doesn't tank the price of the US dollar because there's so much of it out there. So it's the same thing with Bitcoin. It's going to happen. And then we might be in that same situation where mining seems a little bit less profitable for a while because the network difficulty shoots up, and we're going to see this over and over again. But we're at that point where we're big enough that I think we can survive this market. I mean, if Bitcoin went down to $1,000 tomorrow, that would probably mean we have to shut down most of our miners, right? Because we just did the math. We can't leave 1,600 petahash of equipment running for a whole month at $1,000, because if we only hit 80 to 90 blocks, now you're really in the negatives. So you're not making any money, you're losing money. It's coming out of pocket. So you probably just have to turn off all your power and just wait for the price to go up again, or for the network difficulty to drop, which will happen as more and more people drop off their miners. So there is that possibility. I mean, if Bitcoin's price were to shoot down to $1,000 tomorrow, you'll probably get an update that, guys, we have to shut off our miners. But I don't believe Bitclub would do like other companies that had contracts like Genesis Mining and stuff. They just terminated their customers' contracts and said, hey guys, as per our contract, if Bitcoin mining becomes unprofitable, we're just canceling your contract. That's it, you're done. And they still have the hardware. So next bull run, when it comes up, they still have the machines, they get to run it and mine with it, which is a complete, double cross, I find. But with Bitclub, like they did with the GPUs, all they did was pause our days, right? So if Bitcoin drops so low that they have to shut down the machines, I believe that's what they would do. They would just say, hey guys, we got to shut down our machines. Let's lay low for a bit. We're going to pause everyone's shares and then we'll pick up. I mean, that's my guess. I think that's what they would do. That's what they did with the GPUs, and which makes sense. I mean, you can't mine at a loss for months and months and months. It's just not a profitable business. No one is in here to lose money.
I have a question, Sean. I have a question. I'm just asking this question on behalf of Emily. If mining isn't producing much, like you've so brilliantly showed us awesome examples, what are your your comments about opportunities that are out there at the moment that are building mining centers now? There's a few that are running new campaigns about new mining centers. Are they legit? Like, what is your comments on that?
Well, there's a lot of people that are involved in Bitcoin mining, right? Now, opportunities that we see online that, like, you'd have to do a lot of due diligence. Like, you'd have to see, what I like about Bitclub is that everything is verifiable, right? Everything from their hash rate to the wallets to the coins that we mine, the data centers you can visit, the 4-year history, everything is verifiable. So if everyone has any doubts that Bitclub is actually mining Bitcoins, just PM me, or we'll do another webinar and we'll go through all of everything you need to look out for to make sure that company is mining. So if you got another company that pops up, and there's many that pop up and offer returns, so things you want to look out for is, are they offering any sort of return, right? Do they say you're guaranteed to get returns, or 1%, 2%? Oh, that's a red flag right away. And Bitclub, if you look at their website, nowhere does it say, guys, you're going to get any money back, right? It just says we're going to mine Bitcoin, because we can't foresee the future, right? Anyone who gets into Bitcoin mining, you can't foresee what's going to happen, how high the price is going to go, how many competitors are going to come in, who's going to have the best operational costs. So there's so many moving parts in Bitcoin mining that there's no way you can guarantee a return. So just look out for that. Look for guaranteed returns. What are they promising? Can you verify the blocks being mined on the blockchain? Can you verify that stuff? I would start with that as your due diligence. And if you have any questions, well, we'd have to look at the opportunity together, because there's so many out there and they're all scams, to be honest. I got in here in 2016, and this is the only one that I've seen that I believe is legit in 2 years, and I've seen a lot of them. I think, I think that's it, guys. I mean, if I invite you guys to get on, have any questions. I mean, what I like about mining too is that, miners of Bitcoin are going to be innovators. They're going to look at, let me show you an article here that's really cool. Actually, I don't remember what the article is, but there's a, here in Quebec, here in Canada, in Alberta, we've got some rural areas where there's gas that they need to transfer, like pipes, right? Like natural gas and oil. And there's some of that energy can't be transported because, the pipes aren't installed, and there's a lot of loss of energy. So they have to burn it off, right? Because they don't want the methane to go into the atmosphere. So there's regulations with the emissions. So they have to actually burn to prevent the methane emissions. So there's a lot of loss for those companies, where Bitcoin mining comes and solves that problem, right? So there's entrepreneurs out there who go to these companies out in these rural areas and say, you know what, I have a solution for your loss in energy, because you're paying anyways to discard that energy, right? Because you have to burn it. So you have to burn it somehow. So there's a cost for you to get rid of that waste. So not only are you losing your resource, you have to pay for it. So it's like a double loss. It sucks for them. So Bitcoin mining is a solution, because now they can just bring a mobile crate filled with miners. They can hook that up and use the power to just run the machines. So now they're, instead of getting rid of that waste and paying to get rid of it, they're converting that would be lost energy to running machines that are securing the Bitcoin network and providing them with some Bitcoins, which they can use now to offset that cost. So it's like a win-win for them. So they're super happy. So these solutions that, I've been seeing are just brilliant. And, those who have expensive energy costs, like even 3 to 5 cents might be expensive in 5-10 years. So what can you do to reduce that cost? Well, maybe we can invest in solar panels or find another way to run the miners that, doesn't cost so much. So there's going to be solutions that come out that are pioneered by the Bitcoin miners of this planet, which is something exciting to watch out for. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sean. I really, really do appreciate it. If anyone else does have any last questions, please unmute yourself and quickly come on out. But in the meantime, if you are not connected into Sean's online Facebook group, the Residual Income, is it Club, Sean?
Yeah, Residual Income Club.
Yeah, Residual Income Club. Please do so. And Sean, please, you're obviously doing some online trainings at the moment. Can you just give us a little bit of, insight or information about that for anyone who actually wants to participate in those courses?
Sure. So I did design a course. It's really an introductory course to Bitcoin. It takes me about 2 hours to go through it. It's 3 modules. The first module is we talk about money. So what is money? Kind of gave you guys a breakdown about the functions of money, what's the difference between currency and money, and what sound money is. The second module is Bitcoin. So we break down the white paper, we break down the mining process, and what a blockchain is. So really get people understanding what Bitcoin is. And then the third module is getting people set up to actually get some Bitcoin. So install a wallet, and where do you buy it? So it's really, and then at the end I give my recommendations for some additional training, like some books you can read and some resources you can look at. So it's really, it's something that I like to give. So if you guys want to learn more about Bitcoin, and I don't charge for this information yet. I mean, it's the market, the demand for this information is really not there. So I don't really charge people. I do it out of passion. I am part of the Bitclub Network. I do believe in Bitcoin. I believe it's sound money, and we're mining it, and we're top 10 pool in the world. So I just do my part here locally or online just to teach people. And eventually I think it'll come around and pay its dividends.
Fantastic. Sean, thank you so much for your time today. A plethora of information that's come through. I'm certainly feeling a lot more comfortable about all of those variables, difficulty, number of miners, costs, to maintain the equipment, power to run it, the cost of power, per kilowatt, all that stuff. I've learned so much today. Thank you so much. So for those of you who are here, please do share this with those in your network with Bitclub. We need to get this message out there. I will be uploading and posting the actual webinar replay in all the groups for everyone to be able to access as well. But again, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate your time today. Do you have any last comments before we wrap this up?
No, it was great. Thanks for hopping on, those who are live. And if you're watching on the replay, make sure you like, comment, share. Let us know what you thought. Give us your comments. And if you have any questions, let us know so we can address them.
God bless. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Charlene. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.